Dee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes,
Really
I'm
exciting.
thrilled to connect. Um, Before we started recording, I was saying I was going through your Instagram page and you're just really funny. I really enjoy like the playfulness, the humor of the Yoga Gnome. So I'm excited to like talk about that. We'll get to your company, but we'll start right at the beginning of yoga for you. So when did you first find it, and then how did it impact your life?
Yeah, and that is actually a funny story too, because well, I think with laughter and being so connected with laughter, I think everything that's happening in my life always have those sprinkles of joy and giggles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think if you ask anybody, like they'll probably the first thing that they'll probably say, they'll comment is like the cackling, you know.
Right.
But yeah, we go back to, oh my, what year was that? I was 16, so about 3 years ago. Um, I went to
You look great. Yeah.
well, actually, yeah, it was in Israel. I'm from Israel, and a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, she's also a yogi. Um, she reached out and she said, there is this yoga class right in right in town, but it was like tucked in somebody's yard. It wasn't in a studio. It wasn't any place like you know uh, any structure or anything like that. It was just outside, and so we went there, and it was right when we arrived. You could tell like it was almost like we entered this different dimension where there was like smell in the air, like of lemon verbena, and there's like honey. I think she was like making some tea, so you could smell honey in the air. And it was a little dark, but like she had like lights, just beautiful lights that just created this beautiful atmosphere in the area. And we started the class not knowing what we got ourselves into. And I'm looking at my friend, and we were like 16, we were like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all so foreign. It was all so just, it felt like we are like this magical thing. And the instructor, she's guiding us from one pose to another. And then all of a sudden we are in this, all fours, and she's um, telling us to stick our tongues out and just boy. We were like, oh, what's this? And we were like, doing that lion's breath, which
Yes.
I didn't even know what that was. Like, that was the very first time I've ever done it. And we were just like cracking up the whole.
Mm-hmm. I bet. Yeah.
And then we continued, and, of course, Shavasana at the end, which was also very, very new and so intriguing, So that was my very first experience, which really left me, you know, mesmerized. I always say it really left me wanting more. But at 16, with everything going on in my life and other things that I was doing back then, I didn't pursue it right away. And so I was, after I graduated high school, I was in the army. And then after the army, I decided I'm going to go. And I met my husband during this. I'm a big traveler. I love traveling. It's it's a big love of mine. And yeah, and then after I met him, in a way, I always feel that in a way, when I met my husband, I met yoga again. And I know it may sound a little like, you'd be like, well, what do you mean by that? But you know how sometimes, like, do you know that expression that from the sutras, that yoga is the stop to the turning of the mind? Yoga chitta
Mm-hmm.
vritti nirodha.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yoga is the cessation of the turning of the mind. And I think when I met Mike, like, or right before I met Mike, like throughout my whole life, I was so analyzed. Like I'm like analysis paralysis type of, in an analysis
Mm-hmm.
type of place. And constantly looking at every situation, digesting it from every angle and this and that. And when I met Mike, it was almost like this, I always feel like it was like this alignment, like the start of the line. And I stopped doing that. I don't know, for some reason, I kind of trusted. I trusted and I was in the moment completely. And it was really a complex moment because I was not from here. I was just traveling. He was, American, completely on the other side of the country. And it was kind of like against all odds that we were coming together. Here we are talking about love. Like I didn't even think
Right.
about it. But it was. But really, I feel like like from like in every fiber of my being that in that moment, not only that the stars aligned for us, but I also rediscovered yoga. And then soon after I met him, and then the meeting. I could do a whole different podcast about that. Maybe, I don't know, on love and long distance relationship. But I I started taking yoga because it kind of sparked it awakened that lion. I always say like that lion that was in
Yeah.
the yard that I was just like discovering. It was kind of going to bed, and then and then when I met him, all of a sudden it was awakened. And it was a powerful thing. And then from then on, I think I was 23 at that point. It just, yeah, it never left me. And
Mm-hmm.
from it took me, it was accompanied me like a best friend, really, hand in hand throughout pregnancies and life's roller coasters. And it brought me to meet so many amazing people and to meet so many amazing parts, dark and light, within me. And the gift, really, I can't stress it enough, I can't emphasize it enough, the gift of that connection to, because when you're when you're on, especially with beginning, like with motherhood, and um, a lot of women, and a lot of us, right? We can go through, and I talk with so many women about that. We can go, we feel like a sense of losing ourselves in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and like who am I, right? And what's going on, and do I still have myself? And and yoga, because yoga was always such a big part of me, and especially in that critical, meaningful time of my life, it was helpful to remind me who I was, and also yeah, to, just to remember. Like I feel like to remember. Let's just
Yes.
leave it at that. I think remembrance is a big thing. I think we're always returning to that, like that knowing of who we are, that you know
Mm-hmm.
it's changing, it's dynamic, it's so magnificent. I'm
Yeah.
ever I'm in complete wonder, this
Yeah.
practice, being a part of this way of life. I'm rambling on and on. Wow. You
And
just
no, it's such an amazing story. And it's like you described it so well. I could picture being 16 at this class and like
yeah.
the giggling and stuff. And that kind of reminds me of like people who teach that age. And if there is that giggling, it doesn't mean that they're not connecting with it.
Mhm.
Right. It's
Right. Oh
like,
yeah. Oh
like
right.
that clearly that stayed with you. You weren't like, even when kids are like, teenagers are like, this is weird or any of that. As a
Completely.
teacher, just remember, like, that doesn't mean that they're not connecting. It might be like for you, it planted this seed that then, 7 years later or whatever, you were like, oh yeah, like you remembered. So
Right.
I love how you found it there. And then it's just such a fascinating story. And the story gets even more interesting because I want people to know, and I'm so fascinated to know that. So you got married, you have your children, right? And so you moved to a new country, you have your family here, and then when the pandemic hit, you decided to rent an RV and drive across the country with your
We
whole
were,
family.
oh, the world
So
is going on flames. What are we gonna do? We're just gonna hop on
let's
our
go.
RV.
So you're the first person I talked to. I talked to one woman who did travel during the pandemic. She was alone though. So I haven't talked to anyone who like with their family made that decision. So I just want to hear about what brought on that decision and just what was that experience like for all of you?
Yeah, for sure. The pandemic really threw us on a spin. I think all of us, right? And I remember talking to my mom. Again, all my family is in Israel. I'm the only one who's here. I have relatives in Florida, but I was talking to my mom, and she was telling me about it months before it arrived, like months before
Mm-hmm.
we experienced it here. And I remember thinking, and I always feel like I have this guilt. I remember feeling, Mom, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you losing it? You
Yeah.
know, really. And I even said that to her, and I,
Yeah.
oh my, and those words came to me, slapped me right at the face, because soon enough we were facing with that reality. And at first we were thinking, oh, it's going to last 2 weeks and we're
2 weeks.
out.
Yeah.
That 2 weeks kept going and going. And we were, every year, we try every year to see my family. We go, but we realized, well, that's not going to happen this year. And with everybody in quarantine, we were really just not sure how we can even go about traveling. So, of course, I always feel like no matter what, there's always a way. You can always find, you can always be creative, right? And I think this time, despite it being a lot of doom and gloom, this opened this big window, an opportunity for creativity, and like this emergence of, this new way of thinking about things. And I was thinking, how can we travel and still quarantine? Hmm. Just rent an RV.
And how old are your children at this time when the pandemic hit?
How old were they?
Yeah, how old are they?
So Mika, 7, and Leo, 9, and Nate, 17.
Okay.
So yeah, so just a year ago, a little over a year ago at this point. And no, you know what though? I'm talking to you, and we were traveling right at this time a year ago.
That's
Exactly
when you left.
because a memory popped on my phone, and I
Okay.
thought, yeah. So yeah, so we were thinking, okay, and I think I think the pandemic also brought to mind how life is so precious and fragile, and this time is now.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't
Yeah.
know. Everything was just, everything was so unexpected, and things really, I mean, talking about living the moment, like, and really going into the unknown. It was such a fascinating time. If you say, there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
other descriptive words, but so then, yeah, we decided to do that. It's kind of like a bucket list, because we always wanted to do it, and we said, well, the
Mm-hmm.
shutdown, we could just rent an RV, go to different places. And when I researched, I did a big, quite a lot of research, because I wasn't sure how we could even go about it, because in each camping ground will we be able to even enjoy the camping ground, and what can we do there? And national parks, are they even open?
Right.
And all those, and what does it mean, like when we in different states are going to be different regulations and different and I joined the community, and sure enough, I found out that it will be good. Like we can make it happen. We can make it happen. And so we decided that first time RVers, we decided to just do a crossroad country all the way to California. We're such overachievers. We couldn't just go to Virginia or Maine even,
right.
Across the country, go all the way to California.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we did that, and yoga continued with me every day. Did the practice every campground that we stopped. I did my little practice. The kids, sometimes they join me, sometimes they're not. And meditation, that was a big thing for me. And I'll share with you this really amazing story that actually, when I wrote to you, it just it was just the way it just came and manifested in my mind when I wrote to you. I was thinking, wow, it really, there was, I planted that seed there.
Right.
And in that moment I didn't even realize, but only after I wrote to you, sometimes only in retrospect.
Yeah. Then it all makes sense. Connect the dots.
Yeah. And so we went, we stopped in different states, again, from Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Kansas, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada, all the way to California. And then on the way back, we took a different route. So we went south through Route 40, and we stopped. I remember we stopped in a campground on the Mississippi River, and there was this tree. And I wrote to you, like, it was just a gnarly tree. I need to send you a picture of that tree with roots just coming out of the ground. It felt like really like this tree of life just standing there by the river. And the weather, it was so, you could tell a storm is coming. Like, so there's this wind picking up, and I was just sitting there. Everybody was like just chilling in the RV, and I was sitting there, and I closed my eyes, and I just took a moment to connect with the earth, connect with nature, connect with all the elements, and this tree that was just right next to me. And I remember having this vision of a space like that I'm offering yoga. And I remember having that vision, and I didn't know what that will be and how it will again come to life. But I had that glimpse of it, and I know it sounds so like, idea, you're making this, but I tell you, and then after I opened my eyes, I kid you not, there was this rainbow appearing in this.
Oh my God.
I was just like, oh, pinch me.
Yeah.
And yeah, then we have pictures, of course, with the rainbow and all that. And and then when we came back from the trip, we felt so empowered. We felt like we almost kind of carve our own time vortex, where we are just living outside of the madness, and there was so much going on politically and social, like everything's just so bubbly. For a while that we were able to connect, like we've been to national parks and just nature, like vastly felt like we were in dinosaur land. We were in dinosaur land. I remember just like going to Utah. It just felt so amazing. And then when we arrived back home, we were hit with the reality that the pandemic is not going anywhere. And it's
how long were you on the road? So when did you left in July?
3 weeks.
Okay,
yeah. we could have gone. I could have gone.
Yeah.
However, but you could tell, like, it was close to the school year, and
Right.
I felt like, the kids are missing their home and the pets, Wilson and
Mm-hmm.
Travis at home, our favorite kids. And yeah, and so when we arrived, it was really hard because we realized that the pandemic is here to stay, and we're not sure how long it's going to happen, be. And school announced that they're not resuming in person. The kids had, they were really struggling. Like, it felt like the ground is kind of pulling underneath them, all that, um, their routine, the stability, the foundation was just a little bit wobbly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I remember, that's when I had that spark. And I just felt, what, the kids, they were really anxious. Um, my daughter, she had a really hard time falling asleep each night.
Yeah.
We did like this breathing practice, and we call it, we did this practice that we call it the purple. It's just like a visualization of this purple color that just kind of traveling through your body and just relaxing every part. And we did it with both girls, and they're really relying on that. And I could tell that those little things that are not little, making a difference. And I had this thought to just give practices, those that meaningful and grounding practices, to other kids, in case other kids are also struggling with
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and fear, and a sense of, like, losing of control, or yeah, it was a little traumatic, maybe a little lots to some, more than others. And I just posted, I remember, because up until then, I was mostly teaching adults. I had a few classes and local studio for kids, but not mainly. And I just said, can I would love to teach yoga for kids. If anybody's interested, we could do it in an outdoor setting, very safe, and we'll just find connection. And that's, this is how it all started. And then I was overflown with responses. And then a friend of mine, well, a friend of a friend, back then, now we're really close friends, she reached out and she said, I have a great space for you. And at first I thought she meant her house, but she said, no, it's not my house. I have a great space, outdoor space, that is very close to my husband's property. I said, all right. And so I went and checked it out, and it was perfect. It was just perfect. And I started those outdoor yoga classes to the different age groups. Um, I wanted to divide them. I wanted to make sure that, I'm not doing like a big range, because so then I could really own on each of the age um, maturity level, and their, you know, um, and just development and all that. And that's how it was. And it was incredible. Like
And so since then, since starting it in the height of the pandemic and having the outdoor classes, and starting the Yoga Gnome, so that's when it was born during that time. How has it changed? So now, like, what is your business like now? Now that we are starting to come
yeah,
out of
yeah.
this.
So from there, it was I'm always so in awe, and in the way things work when you're in a purpose. I'm I was connecting to purpose, to sharing the gift of yoga with those beautiful minds. And when I did it, when I offered it outdoors, then all of a sudden, time is moving on, and then the weather is starting to be, cold, and people would ask me, "What are you planning on continuing? We would love to continue." and then the landlord was telling me, Adid, there is a space that could be a perfect space for you. It's an indoor space right next to the outdoor space that you're teaching at. So I went in, and I'm sitting here in the space right now.
Oh, okay.
This is it. The Yoga Gnome. I'm sitting in the Yoga Gnome. And I'm like, wow, mind blown.
Yeah, yeah,
Mind blown,
yeah.
mind blown. Thinking, okay, I'm doing this. I'm opening this space.
Mm,
And really, every step that I took, the road just opened up and revealed itself. And it's just so magical. It is. It is. It's like so touching, you
right.
know?
So you have the first kids yoga studio in Bucks
Yeah.
County.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
first water kids.
that's so cool. And are
Yeah.
classes, are classes growing now that it's safer to be inside? And
Growing. And right when I started, I opened a business during a pandemic.
yeah.
Oh, heck, what was I thinking? So not only we went on V tripping, we were like, I'm opening this
Yeah.
business. Oh my, I never owned a business in my life. So, and I always wanted to make sure that safety first, and ahimsa, right? The first,
Mm-hmm.
right? The first yama. And I always kept in touch with the guidelines. We were wearing masks, we were distanced, and I kept the classes small. It's not a big space. I wanted it to be intimate. Sure, I have events that are large, but like in the studio, there is something cool about just and yeah, and yeah, cozy. When you have like just the right amount of kids that you can really form the connection with, and just to see them, right? To just
Mm-hmm.
see them. And it taught me so much. I'm still learning, and I'm a forever student. I always say, like, and soon after, like, I brought in more instructors to open it up to other age groups. So now we have baby classes, like we call it Know Me and Me.
That's cute.
And prenatal,
Mm.
and even adult class, like, because the adults that I taught, they were asking me, Adi, well, are you going to continue that? Right? We miss your classes. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have one class.
Right. You
All
have a
right.
space. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, really recovering everybody in the family. I always say it's like kids like family studio, which is such a dream.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. How
Really.
has, with you having the graphic design background, I love the logo and just like the whole look when you go to your website. Has that helped you to start the
Oh
business, to kind of
yeah,
have that vision and be able to execute it?
big time, big time.
Yeah.
It's and that's the alignment, right? Don't you think? Like I think
Right.
every time I'm talking about the yoga practice, it's connecting the dots to the wholeness that is you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. Like it brought my graphic design, it brought the background, it brought the sense of community, it brought like music. I love music, and I'm a musician in my heart, so I'm hoping that um, to have a little yoga music record in one of those
Hmm.
days. That's really one of my dreams. And there's so many things, and writing. I love writing, and it just everything just kind of
Right. Right. All came together.
all came together. And I got to give credit the gnome logo. I worked with my relative in Florida. They're my only family in Florida. And
Mm-hmm.
my cousin Lihi, she's the one who created this gorgeousness. Like, we're working on it together, but I
Oh, I
gotta
love
give the
that.
credit. Like, she's the one who illustrated it, and kind of went off with my vision, and she just, everything.
Yeah.
stand together. So Lee, if you listen.
Yeah. Well, it's really fun and playful, and I encourage everyone listening to check out the Yoga Gnome on Instagram and just to like scroll through, see some of your videos. There's just like a humor to it that it's unique. It's something, you know, and I've seen a lot of kids yoga companies and studios and stuff, but it like really makes you smile. So I definitely encourage people to check that out. And I'm just so proud of you for just, you know, you had the moment at the tree when you were like, oh, I'm going to share yoga. And then it's one thing to have that, but it's another thing to actually take the steps to do it. And it's not easy to take all those steps. So I'm proud of you that you took each of those steps, you listened, because it's not, like you said, things align, but it's also up to us to take action. And so both of those things happened, and you were able to, you know, take the action, and who knows, you know, it's still a new business. So as you blossom and grow, how it could transform.
I know. I'm so curious, and I have that energy, you know, with opening the studio for kids. I have an energy of a kid who is like in this
Right.
gnome
Yeah.
land. What's gonna
Yes, it's a no.
happen? So
Well,
thank you so much for your kind
yeah.
words. Really, like to hear that, you know, that, and especially from someone who has seen so and talked with so many people. You know, the fact that you appreciating the uniqueness of it all, it means so much.
Yes,
Thank
yes, it's definitely you're welcome. It's definitely magical, and you've got that spark. Some people just kind of naturally have that spark where it's like, yeah, you're in the right place.
you.
So I'd love to hear from your perspective then. I generally close out our conversations with little gems of wisdom. So for you personally, what would be your kids' yoga gem to offer to someone sharing yoga with children?
Such a great question. And there could be so many answers to these questions, but I really think like when I'm really thinking about this question, it brings me to like, you know, I think one of the biggest difference between kids and adults is that kids remember that they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
They know. They just know. You know, they just know that they're kids. They so connected to the playfulness, but adults sometimes they forget. Sometimes they forget. So whoever is listening, you know, who's in the place of delivering yoga for kids, and this really such an amazing place to be. I wish them to tap into that inner child, to keep remembering, because when we remember to tap into our inner child, we can connect better with the children in front of us. And then it's not only nourishing and building the connection between us and them, but it's also feeding and nourishing the connection between us and our inner child. So, and reminding us of the playfulness and the joy and the like, and just jumping on life with this zest, right, and spark. So that's my
Yes.
bits of
Yes.
a little bit of a gem to never forget that inner child within you.
100%. You kind of have to be in touch with that. And when you're around kids and teaching kids, you kind of naturally start
Yes.
to remember it. They're our best teachers. So
Yeah, they
letting
are.
them feed you that energy and like let it light you up. And absolutely. I love that.
You have no idea how many times I felt like, you know, I had a, you know, I was planning a class, and, you know, and then there's so much going on. And, you know, sometimes I would feel, you know, overwhelmed, you know, and then and who knows this the most? The closest people to me, like my
Mm.
husband, my kids, you know. And then I'll go to the class, I'll meet the kids, and there is a shift. There is absolutely a
Hmm.
shift. Like I don't know if I've ever experienced a class where I, you know, when that shift didn't occur, you know,
Hmm.
where you know, it's just light you up. At least me.
Yes. Yeah. You come out inspired every time and like excited.
And the kids, they and that's another, I mean, I don't know if I could sprinkle another thing is like, if you're not sure, like if something is not going, and I think there's many people who are um, hitting that on the nail about the plan and how sometimes it's important to throw the plan. But
Yes.
not only that, just listen to the kids. Get like the whole class could be changed just based on one kid comment, you know, and one kid energy and the direction that they take you. It's incredible. I've been there.
Yeah, it is. Yes. That's what's so amazing about this work. It's always fresh. It's always exciting. It's always something new. I know a lot of people who are artists, musicians, you know, as a dancer, people that come from creative backgrounds, it kind of feeds that part of you, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I want people to find you, get in touch, learn more about you. So can you share all the website, social media, all that stuff?
Sure. So the website is www.theyogagnome.com. And the Instagram is the Yoga Gnome under that underscore, that dash, right? And right, what is there something else?
Yeah, is that the best way to get in touch with you? A DM or an email? What would be?
Both. Yeah.
Both.
Oh, on Facebook too. I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. So all three places. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I would love to hear anybody who would love to reach out, and any tips. Anybody who's thinking about opening a business, I'd be happy to help and support each other. I think it's so important, that support. You know, this is so great because I met you on Instagram.
Yes.
And I feel like it's just what a, you know, what a powerful connection to have. And yeah, I'd love to, you know, to talk with you again in the future and see.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, we might have to talk again and we'll just do an episode on how you met your husband and that whole story. We'll go back to that because that, and also being in the army in Israel, and like there's a lot like we need to get into. This was
just devote about a month of your life.
We'll go through the whole story. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and it was so lovely to connect with you.
Same. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. And you have this such a good energy to you, and you make it feel so, you know, it was my first podcast.
I'm proud of you.
And I was nervous, and you really have a very relaxing and calming energy to you, which is wonderful. So thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Well, this is definitely just the beginning of us connecting, and we'll talk soon. You have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Have a lovely night. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.